Welcome to dxSudoku training video number 89. This video is part 2 of the Multivalue Elimination Puzzle Solving Technique tutorial. MVE is meant to be used for solving ultra-extreme puzzles. These are puzzles that do not have any by-value cells, puzzles that have tons of candidates, and puzzles requiring Sudoku's puzzle solver to use the brute force puzzle solving technique. Lately, on my cell phone, I've been solving Sudoku 3's ultra extreme puzzles using MVE instead of BVE. Since Sudoku 3's ultra extreme puzzles have lots of by-value cells, either technique will work. But for now, I prefer using MVE instead of BVE, mainly because I've been doing these tutorial videos. As a prerequisite for this video, watch dxSudoku video number 88 titled Multivalue Elimination Part I. Special thanks to Rashdi for pointing out bilocation in the comments section of dxSudoku video number 84. Using bilocation cells is just as effective as bi-valued cells in BVE chaining sequences. Bilocation cells will also work with MVE chaining sequences as well. Thanks again for the brilliant suggestion. Consider the following Sudoku. This puzzle has 23 givens, 255 pencil marks, and one starting by-value cell. Sudoku has rated this puzzle as having a difficulty level of 51,062. To solve this puzzle, Sudoku's puzzle solver used the 7 base techniques, 1 avoidable rectangle, 1 Sudoku, 1 XY chain, and 5 brute force techniques. This is the hardest puzzle I was able to find. For this puzzle, I will be using the MVE Method 3 algorithm. When solving ultra-extreme puzzles, we want to get to the first contradiction as soon as possible. And we want to get to a meaningful chaining sequence result with the least amount of assumptions and the least amount of work. As a result from experience, this is the 5th or 6th version I have developed for the Method 3 algorithm. Here are my latest Method 3 guidelines for choosing the next assumption candidate and cell. These current guidelines seem to produce the best results in the least amount of time and effort. There's a precedence and order to our considerations in choosing the next assumption candidate. First, choosing a candidate which will cause other cells to have only one candidate is the highest priority. The more candidate level values we have, the faster a contradiction will show up, or our chaining sequence completing without contradictions. Second, when choosing the next cell, choose the nearest cell sharing a house with the current chaining sequence cell. This is important because house sharing cells will reduce the overall number of assumptions we need before something meaningful happens in the chaining sequence. And third, we choose candidates which will get rid of the most number of candidates from the puzzle. This is important because the quicker we get to cells having a single lone candidate, the quicker we will get to having a meaningful result out of our chaining sequence. And fourth, we choose bi-valued cells before choosing bilocation cells. And we choose bilocation cells before choosing tri-valued or quad-valued cells as the next cell for having an assumption candidate in the chaining sequence. Bi-valued and bilocation cells are especially important because if we encounter a contradiction and we flip to the other assumption, we will at some point be setting a pretend value for a cell to its actual real value in the solution grid. For most puzzles, if we get 3 or 4 pretend values to match the actual value in the solution grid, then the next assumption or two will most likely produce a chaining sequence which completes the puzzle without any contradictions. This is why it is so important to get the first contradiction out of the way as soon as possible. Contradictions will steer our chaining sequence to the correct path for successfully solving the puzzle. And fifth, we choose the cell having the most number of givens or values in its 3 shared houses. This 5th consideration seems mostly relevant in picking out the very first cell. After a few assumptions, there always seems to be a number of bi-value cells which will take precedence over this 5th consideration. So let's begin solving this puzzle. For this puzzle, there is no easy stuff to get out of the way. Based on the number of givens, we have 3 cells to consider as the starting cell of our chaining sequence. First is cell 1, 8, which has 7 givens in its 3 shared houses. The second cell is cell 4, 1, which also has 7 givens in its 3 shared houses. And third is cell 7, 6, which also has 7 givens in its 3 shared houses. At this point, according to the guidelines, we choose cell 7, 6 because it is a bi-value cell versus the other 2 quad-value cells. Next, we focus on the 2 candidates in cell 7, 6. According to the guidelines, we choose the candidate that can remove the most number of candidates from the puzzle. Choosing the 2 candidate would remove 12 candidates from the puzzle. Choosing the 6 candidate would remove 6 candidates from the puzzle. So we choose 2 to be the pretend value for cell 6, 7, and we update our notes. The current chaining sequence stalls. We highlight all the bi-value cells. We have 3 bi-value cells to consider for the next assumption cell. We have 3 candidates highlighted in purple, all opening up one number in the puzzle. We choose the 4 in cell 7, 8 because it's closer to our current chaining cell 6, 7, and we update our notes. The current chaining sequence stalls. We highlight all the bi-value cells. We choose the 7 in cell 7, 9 because it's the only bi-value candidate that opens up a number in the puzzle, and we update our notes. The chaining sequence stalls and we highlight all the bi-value cells. Both the 1 and the 9 in cell 7, 3 open up one number. We choose 9 because it eliminates more candidates from the puzzle, and we update our notes. The chaining sequence stalls and we highlight all the bi-value cells. We choose the 1 in cell 7, 4 to be the next assumption in the chaining sequence because it will open up 3 numbers in the puzzle. The chaining sequence stalls and we highlight all the bi-value cells. We choose the 3 in cell 9, 6 because it opens up 3 numbers in the puzzle. The chaining sequence stalls and we highlight all the bi-value cells. We choose the 9 in cell 8, 5 as the next assumption because it opens up 2 values. And this time we find a contradiction with 2 8s in row 3. We choose the 5 in cell 8, 5 because the 9 had a contradiction. The chaining sequence stalls and we highlight all the bi-value cells. Next we choose the 5 in cell 3, 6 because it opens up 2 values. However, we end up with a contradiction with having no 7 in block 4. We choose 8 for the value of cell 3, 6 because the 5 had a contradiction. The chaining sequence stalls and we highlight all the bi-value cells. We choose the 3 in cell 4, 4 because it opens up 3 values in the puzzle. However, we end up with a contradiction by having no 3 in block 6. So we choose 7 for cell 4, 4 because the 3 had a contradiction. And this time, the chaining sequence appears to have completed without any contradictions. We check for contradictions by cycling through each of the 9 numbers, making sure each house has only one of each number. We have no contradictions, so we choose the remaining lone candidate in each cell as the value of the cell. The puzzle is now completely solved. This completes dxSudoku training video number 89. Please support dxSudoku. Thank you for watching.